Exatamente.
Eu não sou tanto a favor da Quarta República, sou muito mais a favor do Quinto Império.
A primeira palavra que ele não queria que eu dissesse era cadela do PT. Estou falando cadela do PT.
Se vocês estão a contar com o Estado para alguma coisa, esqueçam.
Hi everyone, welcome to Zuga. Now in English, I know this is not very common. We typically speak in Portuguese, but we couldn't waste the chance to speak with Yaron Brook, which is the guest of today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me and speaking English. I appreciate that.
It's an amazing pleasure to have you here.
Thank
I know
you.
that you've been doing some events here in Portugal in the last day. You'll have some today here.
Yep.
I think, how is it called? Atlas Campus is helping to make to put that together as well. For the people that are listening at home, guys, this is a new space, so pardon us if we will have some like sound issues or image issues. It will get better through time. It's the first time we are doing the podcast in this space. However, for the people at home that don't know you, so Yaron Brook is the chairman of Ayn Rand's Institute.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about what that means. Who is Ayn Rand? What is Objetivism? He's the author of books like Free Market Revolution, Equal is Unfair, which is also a concept that we'll discuss today, and the leading advocate for capitalism and objectivism.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again for being here. It's an honor. How it's been?
My pleasure.
How it's been the visit so far in Portugal?
It's good. Everything's been good. It's a quick visit. I'm on a European tour, so this is, I don't know, the ninth event I'm doing in 10 days or something ridiculous like that in 9 different countries, but it's all good.
Yeah, it takes stamina. Well done for that.
Yeah, I know it takes stamina because I'm not sure I have it anymore. I used to do a lot better.
Yeah, so people here in Portugal might be wondering, okay, tell me more. I've never heard about this objectivism stuff.
Yeah.
Who is Ayn Rand? So can you tell us, and let's start with that. What is objectivism? Who is Ayn Rand?
Sure. I mean, Ayn Rand was an author, an American author, who wrote in the middle of the 20th century, and probably had probably among the most important thinkers of the 20th century. I think she'll have a profound impact on the future of mankind, certainly of the U.S. and in Europe. She's a best-selling author. I think she already had huge impact, I'd say, on kind of the generation that elected Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, and kind of the move to the right that happened in the 1980s, or to the free market right that happened in the 1980s. She still sells an amazing number of books, so she's still somebody who inspires people all over the world. Her books have been translated into pretty much every language, including Portuguese. And we were just talking Portuguese in Brazil and Portuguese in Portugal, because I guess you guys don't read each other's translations. But
it's like the English American stuff, you know. We like to keep it, but it's a bit different.
It's a bit different, I think. Yeah,
the differences in language are more extreme.
Yeah.
In terms of how do you construct phrases, although we obviously understand
each other.
We don't like it both ways. So we just keep translating again and again for Portuguese in Portugal and Portuguese in Brazil.
Yeah, so books are translated pretty much into every major language out there, and a lot of minor languages. I mean, she was born. She's got a fascinating life history. She was born in 1905 in St. Petersburg, Russia. And she kind of witnessed the Russian Revolution from her balcony. I mean, it happened right there in St. Petersburg. So she lived under communism. She experienced what communism was like. Her father, who was a pharmacist, owned a pharmacy that was taken from them. The apartment was taken from them. They had to live with other families. And she, from a very young age, had a kind of an individualistic spirit. She was an independent thinker, and she hated communism from day one. And it was obvious that if she stayed in Russia, she would not survive. They would kill her. So she got out as soon as she could. There was a small opening in the 1920s where she could leave and go do some research in the U.S. and come back. And but she knew she would never come back. Her family knew she would never come back. Made it to the United States, got there, a young Russian woman with nothing. Went to Hollywood because she wanted to write for the movies. Ultimately got all kinds of jobs, odds and ends jobs, and ultimately became a scriptwriter in Hollywood. She wrote plays. Her first novel is We the Living, which is a very kind of autobiographical novel. It's about a young woman growing up in Russia and witnessing the revolution and dealing with that. Very powerful novel. If you want to understand communism, read We the Living. She wrote a small book called Anthem that was first published in the UK, a kind of a dystopian novelette, very, very small, quick read. And then she wrote a book called The Fountainhead, which took her quite a few years to write. It was published in 1945. And she sent it out to publishers and nobody wanted it. So 12 publishers rejected it. And then the 13th publisher took it and didn't print a lot of copies because they didn't think it would amount to much, but it became a bestseller. It became a kind of a word of mouth bestseller. To this day, it sells tens of thousands of copies just in the United States and then globally because it's been translated. And then she started working on a magnus opus, which is Atlas Shrugged. And she published that in 1957. This time, all the publishers wanted to publish it because they'd seen what happened with The Fountainhead. And it came out as an instant bestseller. It again still sells hundreds of thousands, I think, of copies all over the world. She became a real celebrity in the United States. At that point, she started writing philosophy and commentary on the culture. So she didn't write another novel, but she wrote lots and lots of articles that were then put into books. Capitalism, Not Known Ideal, The Virtue of Selfishness, pretty controversial, Philosophy, Who Needs It. These are the kind of books she wrote about the very early beginnings of the environmentalist movement, and about the New Left, which was rising in the 1960s. So she really covered, she talked about politics and everything that was going on in the world, really, during that period. She analyzed and covered, given her unique philosophical perspective. And she wrote some pretty philosophical books like Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology. And she landed up calling her philosophy, kind of all these ideas that she developed in the novels and then that she developed in her nonfiction writing, she called that the philosophy of objectivism. So that came together. And it turned out, given all her writings, that she had a position on metaphysics, on epistemology, on ethics, on politics, and on aesthetics. She's got a book called The Romantic Manifesto, which is a theory of art that she developed. So, I think she'll go down as one of the great philosophers and certainly maybe the most important thinker of the 20th century.
All right. And that said, with all those amazing novels and so on, I've read Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. I've not read With the Living yet, so I'm.
You should.
Now.
I think you'll enjoy it. I think you really like it.
I will. Thanks. So that said, in a nutshell, how can you describe to people that never heard about objectivism? What is that? I mean, people have heard the virtue of selflessness.
Yeah,
and you're in Portugal,
harsh.
so they will scream far right if you say that. So
well, I don't know if I wish for the far right thought the virtue of selfishness. I don't think they do.
Yeah, but in Portugal,
we could talk about that.
Yeah,
everything they don't like is the far right.
Exactly. In Portugal, everything that is not like social democracy, socialism type is a far right extremist.
Well,
so explain to people what is objectivism.
So, subjectivism, I mean, it's hard to do because objectivism is a philosophy. So it's many books, many volumes could be written. But on kind of on one foot, kind of the brief topic, Ayn Rand believed that reality is what it is. It's not what you wish it to be. It's not what somebody else wishes to be. Existence exists. A is A, the law of causality kind of, and then we as human beings have the tool to know reality. We know reality through reason, through our senses, and with the use of our mind, integrating the information we get from our senses. We don't know it from our emotions. Our emotions are not tools of cognition. They don't teach us about reality. They teach us about ourselves, maybe, but not about reality. And we don't learn truth from revelation. Truth comes from reason, from observing and integrating. And then, reason is a faculty that only individuals have. There's no collective consciousness. There's no collective thinking. So individual is the unit that is of importance. The individual should, according to objectivism, pursue his own interests, his own life, survive, thrive, flourish, and ultimately happiness. So the goal of morality should be to teach us how to live well, how to flourish, how to thrive, how to be the best human beings we can be. It's not to teach us how to sacrifice and live for others. And it's not to demand others sacrifice for us. It's to live your life as an independent human being using your reason, your means of your tool to know the world as your guide. And then, if such individuals pursuing their own happiness, pursuing their own life, they want to be basically left free, recognizing that the enemy of reason and the enemy of thinking is force, coercion. So you want a political system that rejects, that takes out of society force and coercion. So you want a government that has a monopoly over the use of force, but can only use it in retaliation, can only use it to protect people from force and coercion. So she's against socialism. She's against fascism. Far left, far right. She is for capitalism, which she defined as the system where the government's sole job is the protection and defense of individual rights, where all property is owned privately, and where there is a complete separation between state and economics. So pretty radical as a free marketer, as the but it's more than just a market. It's the idea that rights must be protected. That is the role of government.
Yeah. So you spoke about some concepts that some people might think they're very subjective, like happiness, right? Happiness for me can mean very different things than what it means for you. Happiness for you might be doing a very nice tour through Europe, talking about Ayn Rand and objectivism. To me, happiness is like staying with my family
Sure.
and enjoy a nice dinner with them. So how can that be the self-interest joining force of the pursuit of happiness?
Sure.
How such a subjective thing can be meddled and consistent with objectivism then?
So first, I don't think it's subjective. Subjective is a philosophical term that really means, whatever you feel like. And I think the principles, the rules to achieving happiness. Happiness is not just something that you whim, that just comes out of your own particular whims. It's certainly personal. Each one of us is going to experience happiness differently, and we each can experience happiness from different things.
Yep.
But even then, there's a principle guiding it all. Happiness comes from achieving your values, assuming those values are rational and pro-life, right? If your values involve injecting heroin and being a sadomasochist, then you're not going to achieve happiness by achieving your values. Your values will actually destroy you, make you unhappy, and actually kill you. So you have to have life-affirming, rational values. If you have life-affirming, rational values, and it can be, I think everybody needs a career. I think, we could talk about that, but career is where you get your self-esteem, and I think self-esteem is necessary. But some people might emphasize more family. Some people might emphasize more travel. Some people don't like to travel. There are a lot of specifics that differ from people, but I don't call them subjective. Hopefully, you can define what your values are and why they're values to you. And in a rational way, in a way that you can communicate. And I can do the same for mine. So the formula for happiness is to achieve your rational life-affirming values and to constantly strive to improve, to constantly strive for something better, whether it's within your career or whether it's within your family or, whatever realm.
What if my self-interest is just to maximize pleasure?
Well, then you won't be happy. You'll end up being miserable. The hedonists don't actually achieve, they achieve momentary pleasure, but they don't actually achieve happiness. We are not a being that is pure material. That is, we're not a being that can only survive on a material pleasure. Pleasure is important. I'm all for pleasure. I love pleasure. I think pleasure is great. And pleasure is a requirement for happiness, but it's not enough. And people who dedicate themselves just to having to partying and drinking and drugs or whatever, sex, whatever, they can have fun for a while, but that doesn't add up to happiness. And that's the other thing. Happiness is not a momentary emotion. It's not like I'm happy 1 minute and I'm not happy the other minute. Happiness is an underlying state of being. it's something that you carry with you for the rest of your life. You can get bad news. Something really horrible can happen that makes you very, very, very sad. And yet fundamentally, you're still a happy person. So happiness is not something that you switch on and off all the time. It's something that once you attain it and you sustain it, is sustained as an underlying sense of being.
So when you say pursue your self-interest and your own happiness and so on, but at the same time, there's judgment in terms, not judgment in a bad sense, but judgment in the sense of, obviously there are ways to pursuing your self-interest that are better than others. How do you explain that to people a little bit more clearly? Because some people say, oh, awesome, I can pursue my self-interest. I will just do what I want and anybody can be good. Is there such a thing as objective morality on the objectivist framework?
Absolutely. I mean, morality is objective. So the standards of your behavior, the principles by which you behave, which is what morality kind of articulates, are objective and they're not dependent on you. They are uniform to the entire human race. That is, these are principles that apply to everybody, no matter where they are, no matter what their circumstances are. That is, it's true for all human beings that the way in which we survive, the way in which we thrive is by the use of our reason.
Yeah. And can you give examples, like one of those universal, objective, moral rules?
Live by reason. Live by your mind. Be rational. Be rational is a moral principle. I know that's very outside the norm of what people consider morality, but that's because I think morality today is completely messed up and it's anti-human and it's destructive. It's why we have so many problems in the world, why we have so many political problems, but also just personal problems. There's a lot of people who are unhappy in the world. There's a lot of poverty and death and destruction in the world. And it comes from the fact that we have a screwed up morality. So I think for 2,000 plus years, or really since the beginning of mankind, we've messed around with morality and we've dedicated morality to thinking about how to sacrifice to other people and how to place the well-being of other people in front of everything else. And we haven't really thought about how to make our own lives good. And this is the revolution, I think, that Ayn Rand brings. So the number one, if you had to boil down all of Ayn Rand's thinking into one principle, guidance to life, think, use your mind. I mean, the reality is that almost any time you get into trouble and you go, oh God, that was a mistake, it's almost always the case that you followed your emotions and you didn't think it through beforehand.
Definitely.
I mean, it's almost never that you go, I thought about it too much, right? I didn't think it through. I didn't really look at all the evidence. You get involved with a woman who's ultimately not so good for you. Yeah, you let your libido dictate what you do rather than think about what the consequences of what your actual actions are, what her character might or might not be. So thinking is the essence, is the core of human morality. It's what guides us to flourishing. It what makes every value possible. I mean, none of us are born, if you look at just basic human values, none of us are born with a gene to hunt. I mean, I know some men think they do, but they don't have it, right? If you go up against a bison, you have to run down a big animal, right? We're not fast.
We don't have
We're not strong. No claws, no fangs, right? So you're not going to be successful. So you need tools. You need weapons. You need strategy. You need teamwork. All of that requires thinking. All of that requires. We don't have a gene to create bows and arrows. Bows and arrows. Some genius invented it. We probably burnt them at the stake, and then people copied it. But some genius had to invent it. So, the mind is the source of all human values.
Yeah. So, what do you say? For example, there is a bunch of people that would say, "Hey, I'm thinking clearly and very precisely. That's why I reached the conclusion that socialism is the best." You even had the expression of scientific socialism, as you know, right? So they really wanted to prove the point that socialism was the best rational economic system that you could have. How do you argue with those people in terms of rational, with better reasoning? What is your advice?
So you could make an excuse for maybe Karl Marx that he didn't know better, maybe, right? But Marx is full of contradictions and full of garbage in his writing. But you can make the excuse that 150 years ago, 200 years ago, okay, it seemed scientific, although it wasn't. Today, with the complete failures of socialism, I mean, what people who are socialists today do is they take a knife and they stick it in both of their eyes, and they blind themselves to reality.
Yeah.
The one thing socialists don't do is use their mind. The one thing socialists don't do is think. Because if they use their mind, if they use their eyes, if they use their mind, they would see the complete and utter failure of socialism. And if they use their mind, they would see that socialism cannot work because it's a rotten theory. Marx was wrong on pretty much everything he said. Why he's still popular is bizarre, right?
It's emotional.
It's emotional. It's driven by emotion. It's driven by morality, right? By a rotten morality, by a bad morality.
That's one thing that I was about to say, which is, if I go to the streets right now in Portugal and I ask someone about their most important, let's say, top 3 values that you have, I bet you like 80% of people will say equality in one of those values.
Yeah.
But you would say, and you wrote it, equality is unfair.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you care to explain that concept to people, which is very foreign here in Portugal?
Sure. I mean, we're all different. We have different skills, different abilities. I mean, it's a fact, and it's what makes life interesting and fun, is the fact that we're all different. We're all the same. It would be horrible. So given that we're all different, we all have different values. We all work at different jobs, different level of engagement. We work harder, we work less. Some people like to be at the beach a lot of the time. Some people are lazy. Some people are hardworking. We have different moral characters. We're all different in every dimension. So the outcome of that is going to be, we're going to produce at different levels. Some of us produce a lot. Some of us produce a little bit. And the economic inequality is just a reflection of how much you produce. And that's just reality. You can ignore reality, you can evade reality, you can pretend it doesn't exist. But the fact is, we all produce different amounts, and therefore our income is different and our wealth is different. When you try to equate us in terms of outcome, then you have to use coercion, you have to use force. You have to take from the person who was really hardworking, had a great idea, started a business, created something that didn't exist before. You have to forcibly take from that person and give it to, in some cases, people who just maybe are not that smart, or maybe people who are, got a bad break in life, or people who are lazy, or people with bad moral character, who people don't want to work hard, who don't want to sit in front of the television, play video games all day. So they get, by using force, they steal, in a sense, the wealth from the person who actually created it. So the only way to achieve equality is through violence. It's through taking. And so equality is a phenomena of violence, and it ignores the metaphysical reality that we're not equal. The metaphysical reality that we don't produce the same amount. Now, people believe that businessmen exploit. The money they earn is not earned, right? Rich people do. But the reality is that you can't become rich unless you make products that people want, and you sell it to them at a price they're willing to pay. And thus doing, you're making your customers' lives better, because nobody buys stuff to make themselves worse. Nobody buys stuff because they don't care. People buy stuff because they believe that by buying it, their life will be improved. And you're doing that by creating the stuff, or by opening a store, by opening a restaurant. You're enhancing the lives of the people you engage with. And instead of viewing them as virtuous, as good people, because they've gone out there, they've worked, they've created something for themselves and made everybody else's lives better, we view them as scoundrels, as bad guys, exploiters, and we want to take their stuff. That's unbelievably unjust. There's another moral principle, right? Justice. Justice means getting what you deserve. If you sit all day and play video games, you don't deserve anything. Right? You deserve the video game. That's it. And if you starve, that's your problem. If you go and build a new company and create a new product that people enjoy and value and are willing to pay for, you deserve to make a lot of money. So the system that allows some people to make a lot of money and other people to have less is a system of justice, the exact opposite of kind of social justice, which is what the socialists push for.
Yeah, so it's complete reversal. They don't even believe in objective morality, right? They, the new left, and this every type of left really that I've seen, they all deny objective morality, but they seem to be the most moralists as possible, which is a funny combination.
They live by a certain objective morality. That is, their morality is based on altruism. Their morality is based on the idea that the poorer you are, that the less you have, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter to them why, you're more virtuous, you're good. And the more successful you are, the richer you are, the more prosperous you are, the more you've done with your life, the more evil you are. And the idea is that the only way to get to be successful in life is to exploit the unsuccessful. So everything is about oppression, oppressed and oppressor. So the successful are oppressors, the failures are oppressed, and therefore the failures are the good guys and the successors are the bad guys. And you can see that all over the world. So if a country is rich and successful and prosperous, they must be evil. If a country is poor and miserable and treats its people horribly and everybody's really in bad shape, well, they must be oppressed, so they are the good guys.
Yeah,
and that's global politics today.
Yeah. So there's a phrase from Solzhenitsyn that really puts it well in terms of equality. He was also born in Soviet Union, born and lived there, and all these books were forbidden.
And were persecuted there and were sent to the gulags and lived had a horrible time.
He wrote in the Gulag Archipelago, he says, he has a really good quote when he says that human beings are born different. That's it, just like you said. So if we are different, we will never be the same. And if we are free, we'll never be the same, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the only way that we are equal is if we are not free.
Yes,
that's it.
Absolutely. And even then, even when we're not free, we're not equal. I mean, was everybody equal in the Soviet Union? No. I mean, is everybody equal in the Gulag? I mean, I think one of the points he makes is no, not even in the Gulag. Some people are more industrious and find ways to do better in the Gulag. Some people just give up and die very quickly in the Gulag. So even when you have zero freedom, when everything is controlled, we're not all going to be equal, because we're all different. And that's
Would
just
you say that
reality.
equality is an anti-human value?
Yes. Now, there is one form of equality that's pro-human and good. I mean, the founding fathers of America, they start off the Declaration of Independence. With the statement, all men are created equal. So, but they didn't mean it in a sense that the socialists or the left meant it. They meant it in a sense of politically. That is that all men have equal rights. They will all have the right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. We all must be protected by the law equally. That sense of political equality, I think, is the only sense in which equality means anything for human beings. Any other sense of equality of outcome, equality of opportunity, are all forms of, trying to evade the metaphysical reality and using force and coercion in order to do it.
So permit me a pivot now in the discussion. Sure. So we are known as a libertarian podcast. We discuss about politics, economics, philosophy. Sure. That's why you're here, right? Why did Ayn Rand didn't refer to herself as a libertarian much? Why objectivism and objectivists in general don't refer to themselves as libertarian? Because it seems as a political system, I mean, libertarianism seems like an expected political system if you think objectively in that sense.
Well, maybe not. This is what we're going to talk about, right? Yeah. So it's not that Ayn Rand didn't refer to herself as libertarian. Ayn Rand was very negative on libertarians.
Exactly.
She was very negative on them.
Why is that?
And so I think there are a few reasons. One, objectivism is a philosophy. It's not politics. It's not just a political philosophy. It's a philosophy. And Ayn Rand rejected the idea that you could have a political philosophy, libertarianism, without a system of morality, epistemology, metaphysics, without a philosophical foundation. She thought it was a waste of time to just focus on politics and economics, which is what most libertarians focus on. She said you need a philosophy, and everybody has a philosophy. And she worried that because the libertarians accepted anybody's philosophy, that it basically made the politics untenable. It made the politics unintelligible. And ultimately, it was a weak foundation. It's quicksand, right? You couldn't build a good foundation. You needed a proper philosophy to have the foundation of liberty. And of course, she was right. And the consequence of that is that you know, what does libertarianism actually mean, right? You know, some libertarians believe in limited government and individual rights, but there were a lot of libertarians out there who believe in anarchy, that there should be no government and anything goes. Libertarians have defended pedophilia. I mean, if the child wants it, they have the liberty to do it,
That's
right?
pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy, but they're all under the tent of libertarianism because they have a rotten definition of a philosophical definition. You know, so the libertarians who take a lot of different and in many cases pretty crazy positions. Right now, for example, you've got libertarians who hate America, who hate Israel, who hate civilization, and who are pro-Putin, and yet they call themselves libertarian. You know, they're libertarians. There's no liberty in any of the. You know, there's no liberty there. And you've got at the same time people who are exactly the opposite. So what is libertarianism? What's the policy that libertarianism actually advocates for? And I think the problem is it's too big of a tent. There are too many different elements underneath this label, and it doesn't have the proper philosophical foundation. So there's no way to fix the tent without a foundation.
I would say, and we can speak a little bit about it, because I completely agree with you when you say that libertarianism is incomplete. And most of people that say they are libertarian and don't think too much about it because it sounds good. It doesn't sound good in Portugal at all. It's it's a very hard thing to sell, let me tell you. But it does sound good in people that try to prioritize freedom, because that sounds good, right? I mean, why should people steal from me? Why should people tell me how to live? I should decide that for myself. It's very consistent with objectivism, but they try to explain everything and try to reorientate the world in a sense with only libertarianism. And libertarianism is very simple, actually, and it doesn't try to solve much. It's very, in my mind, that's my perspective. I see it just as the principle of non-aggression, the non-aggression principle. That's it. So it doesn't tell you how to live at all. It just tells you shouldn't aggress and initiate violence against someone else. And that's it in all forms. But anything else, then you have other systems that inform your reasoning. But of course, for example, we are libertarian and conservative. So I super agree with you that without a moral system that underpins your liberty, then you just descend into chaos.
Absolutely. So yes, I mean, this is the challenge, right? So,
but I wouldn't say it's a fault of libertarianism. I would say people are just trying to do with libertarianism more than it promises.
But look, libertarianism is really a term that was created really in the 1960s to a large extent by Mario Rothbard.
Yeah, correct.
Who was an anarchist, who believed in a lot more than the non-aggression principle. And of course, the non-aggression principle is not a principle because it has to have a moral reason why don't aggress. I mean, every system of thought in human history was pro-aggression. Judaism is pro-aggression, Christianity is pro-aggression, Islam is pro-aggression. Every secular philosopher ever existed is pro-aggression if it's for the good cause, if it's for the right cause, right? And they've all practiced aggression. So you need to justify the non-aggression principle. It's not a starting point. It's an end in a sense. And I think in order to justify the non-aggression principle, you have to have the right moral code. Almost everybody has a wrong moral code. And therefore, when you come to the non-aggression principle, they go, well, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't make any sense, because it doesn't. It's inconsistent with what followed before. So, so libertarianism from the beginning was set up as a system that's much more than non-aggression. It has positions on pretty much everything. And it has positions about, and even when it comes to kind of, if we agree that there should be a individual rights, well, where do rights come from? Which rights exist? Who has rights? How do we apply it in government? Those are all tricky questions. They're not obvious and how to do it. Non-aggression doesn't tell you how to solve those problems.
It doesn't.
Those are problems that need to be solved. And yet your philosophical foundations are going to dictate to a large extent how you solve those problems. and therefore we disagree. So I think it's a problem to have a big tent. And since I do have a philosophy, I do have the moral foundations, there's no reason for me to belong to a tent because I find myself. So, for example, I think anarchists, people who call themselves anarcho-capitalists. I don't know if you guys call yourself anarcho-capitalist, but I think that is a very, very dangerous ideology. I think it's an anti-freedom ideology that ultimately leads to bloodshed. I don't think it leads to the non-aggression principle. I think it actually leads to aggression, and it's a issue, anarcho-capitalism, that actually negates the idea of individual rights. Right? It's because there's no entity that actually protects individual rights because individual rights are tradable in the marketplace.
Yeah. What do you say if people give you some like historical examples, like the medieval Iceland? Because people also have different.
I love medieval Iceland because
or Cospaya in Italy.
Yeah, everybody gives me the.
Let me just finish my point, because some people also see anarcho-capitalism in different ways, and I really don't like it when people think, oh, anarcho-capitalism is just there's not going to be leadership at all, no hierarchies, no everything, and I think that's pretty dumb. To be honest, I think that's pretty dumb to think that humans will organize themselves in that way, because leadership and hierarchy is a pretty natural human expectant consequence.
Yeah. So I've never
can be free.
I've never heard of a design of anarcho-capitalism that makes any sense to me. They all fall apart. They all turn into violence. And so Iceland was one of the first examples that people always use, and one of the primary examples. David Friedman used it, of course. So I visited Iceland, and I asked a libertarian economist there. I said, how do I learn about that period in Icelandic history? Because I'd like to learn more about what actually happened. He said the best thing is go read the sagas, the story of kind of the stories of what was going on. So I bought this at the airport. They were selling the sagas, and I bought them and I read them on a plane. And oh my God, right? So this is what happened in Iceland, right? I would steal your horse. So you would come and kill my wife. So I would kill your children. And then we'd go in front of this big gathering, right, that they had once, I don't know, a month, once a year in Iceland. And they'd say, oh, well, you guys need to stop, and you give him and you compensate him. And we say, okay. And we do all that. And then we go back home and we go, no, I'm still pissed off at you. So I go kill some more of your children, and you come and steal more of my horse. And the whole saga is everybody's killing everybody else. Constant violence, which is exactly the way I perceive anarchy to be. Anarchy is a system of violence. It's a system.
That's not what happened, right?
That's exactly what happened in Iceland.
Because most of the data informs that there was much less murder than the medium average of what you had in Europe.
No, there were the first of all, you've got to be suspicious of data from that period of time, particularly if you're doing median vis-a-vis.
And why not be suspicious of that story?
Because these are the only accounts we have. These are really the only accounts we have of what happened in Iceland. We don't have detailed records. We don't have a history, a formal history. Really, all we have to learn from Iceland, to a large extent, is what the stories that were told. This was not a civil. This is the other thing, right? It's pretty primitive, right? This is not a civilization where they were doing science or writing or engaged in writing or engaged in history or engaged in any of these things. It was primitive, and it stayed primitive for a very, very long time. So if you look at societies where you actually saw progress, which I care about, I don't want to live in Iceland, just being a farmer. I want progress. If you look at progress doesn't start in Iceland. Progress starts in Florence. Progress starts in Europe under very, very different conditions than it did in Iceland. So there's no example that I know of in human history where A, it was truly peaceful, and B, you actually had anything good happening, right? So it's one thing to live in peace. It's another thing to advance, to progress, for good stuff to happen.
Cospaya progressed pretty much. I mean, they built amazing palaces. They made themselves rich by planting tobacco that it was forbidden in Italy at the time. Cospaya.
Yeah, I don't know the story of Cospaya.
It was like 500 years long.
Yeah,
their story.
Yeah.
But I think you make some great points. I think you make some great points.
And I've debated this. You can find my I've done a couple of debates on this. One in Poland and one with Brian Kaplan. And I've got a lengthy essay on why I object to anarcho-capitalism.
I think you make some good points, and it is difficult to defend in a sense because it's a freedom system. So you don't really know what you are defending, because
it's not a freedom system. This is the fundamental philosophical issue. It's not a freedom system, because for freedom, you have to define what freedom means. And to do that, you have to have a principle of individual rights. You have to have a system of rights. And rights need to be defended.
Yeah.
And you can't, Brian Kaplan, when I debated him, acknowledged the fact that in a system with multiple police forces where we're competing in different judiciaries, yes, individual rights will be violated because, we'll come to compromises. I'm not buying an idealistic system in which we compromise on individual rights.
That happens nowadays, right?
Well, nowadays is not a good system. I'm not defending the system that exists today. I'm not defending government
But
as
how
it
would you
exists
enforce
today.
it even more if you already have law enforcement, state?
Well, I'm saying you have to have, we don't live in a world that understands what individual rights are. We don't live in a world that has composed its laws and its principles based on individual rights. So we don't, we can't learn much about what a proper system would look like based on, what we have today.
Exactly. So it's a fair argument both ways. But you make a good case for it. I would like to extend some of these conversations also for some of the rights, because
Sure.
you spoke about, and one of your phrases, it was really a good one that I liked. You said, if the pursuit of happiness is rational and pro-life, objectivists are not known for being pro-life, right? So I would like to discuss that point on abortion. So when the right to life begins.
So, yeah, we're very pro-life. Objectivism is all about pro-life. It's the life of the mother.
Semantics.
The life. Yeah, it's all about semantics, right? You guys chose, the anti-abortion side chose pro-life for semantic reasons. Sounds good. We're pro-life. The real human life that actually exists versus the potential human life that doesn't exist yet. So we view a fetus as not human, right? It's a potential human. It will become a human being, but it's not yet human. And it's not yet an individual. So rights are about individual rights. So it hasn't been individuated. It hasn't been separated. So all the rights at this point, politically, all the rights are with the mother. The state has the total responsibility of protecting the mother, not the fetus. The state has no relationship with the fetus. It's not an individual. It's not being separated, and it's not human yet. It's only a potential human. And certainly in the first few months, it's just, it's a clump of cells.
Yeah, but you don't think it starts after a few months, right? When is
No,
that
because
life worth defending then?
Well, once it becomes human and separate.
So when it's born.
So when it's born.
So if, for example, if I have like 8 months, so there's a newborn,
Yeah.
which was born a little bit prior to the 9 months, let's say 7 months and a half, is already born, is in terms of development is exactly the same as the other.
Well, he's not. He usually has to be in a special care.
So let's say 8 months then.
Okay.
It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter.
Yeah,
right?
it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of being born. So
Exactly,
it's
but
not a matter
that's
of
what
time.
that's what I want to test with you, which is if I'm born like a week prior and there is the same baby which is still in the womb,
Mhm.
those are essentially the same beings in terms of development, in terms of capabilities and everything. So why one can be killed and the other has the full right to life? It seems a bit hard to defend.
Because they're completely different entities. One is breathing. The other is achieving all of its life requirements come through the umbilical cord. It's not breathing. It's not eating. It's not digesting. It has no individual life. It's not an individual yet. It's not. Rights begin at the time to have rights. You have to be an individual. So it's just a legal concept, right? So,
but let's not discuss it at the legal concept, right? Because legality doesn't equate to morality. Let's keep it on the morality side.
well, but on a moral principle, it's often immoral to have an abortion. So morality is about reason and rationality.
Yeah.
So it's a question of why is a woman having an abortion? If you lived in Brazil and had Zika, and your fetus's brain had shriveled and was like tiny, and if it was going to be born, it would survive for a few months in complete and utter misery and pain the entire time. It's immoral not to abort that child.
You think so?
Absolutely.
But how are we certain that that's going to be his life?
That's called science.
It's
called science.
Science is not certain 100%.
Oh
of
yes, it
everything.
is.
Let me give an example.
If you have a shrunken brain and we know what Zika is, we know how it performs. Absolutely, we know exactly what the life
Let
is
me
going
give
to
you
be.
an example.
And
So-
even if it's not, let's say I'm going to have a child.
Yeah.
And it's 90% probable that it'll have a life
Sure,
like that.
Exactly.
I would absolutely kill it before. Absolutely.
But why?
Because the misery of 90% probability misery is so horrible that I would never want to inflict on another human being that kind of misery. It's why I believe suicide is not immoral. It's often moral. It's why so I think sometimes life is not worth living.
Yeah. But you just said like a few moments ago that you can be suffering a lot and still be happy, right? So it doesn't really equate to a utilitarian perspective.
A baby that has no conception and is born and is just suffering. It's intense pain. Oh God, I would do anything to avoid that.
Yeah, but even if I said to you, okay, let's then forbid every single others of the 99.6% of abortions, you would still didn't care because you would still be in favor of that, right?
Yeah, but again, you shifted on me because you've gone to politics instead of morality, right? So politically, absolutely, it's not an individual. It doesn't have rights.
No, but morally speaking,
morally,
I didn't shift to politics. But
morally, the point is it rational? That is the point. Look, almost no abortions happen in the eighth month. The number of abortions in the eighth month is almost zero. And when it does happen,
if it did, you would be fine with it.
But when it does happen, yeah. But the point is that we're talking about an actual phenomenon. Like because of morality, not because of legal, because of morality, doctors won't perform the abortion in the eighth month, and potential mothers don't want to do it. So that's a moral point. Legally, yes, the state has no business in it, right? The state has no business. So morally, doctors won't do it for good reason, and I don't think I think it's good that they don't do it. If you're a woman,
why is it good? If it's
because it's a moral issue. Let me get to the moral issue. If you're a woman and you're pregnant, you're going to have a baby, and come 8 months, you feel like you don't want to have it. That's again, my morality is about reason, right? You have to take responsibility. So at that point, just the whim of not doing it. That's why it's harmful to you as a woman to have an abortion at the eighth month. It's dangerous for you. There's so many reasons why you wouldn't want to do it. So the only time we have abortions in the eighth month is either because the fetus is really in bad shape and is going to have a horrible life, is not going to survive, or the mother is going to die as a consequence. So those are the only abortions in those stations. Earlier than that, almost all abortions happen before the 20th week. Something like 92% of abortions happen before 21st week. And at that point, it's not a human being. It's not individuated. And it has there's no moral issue. I view it the other way around. Look, if you're a woman and you're pregnant and you don't want to have a child,
don't have sex.
Oh God, yeah, but that's what it boils down to. You should have sex. Sex is wonderful. Have lots of sex, people, please. Sex.
And why does sex exist? Let's be rational. Why does sex exist in nature?
Yeah, but see, we're not animals.
No, but answer my question.
Yeah, for sex existing in we're not animals, but we're not that kind of animal. Right? We're a step above animals. So we can take something that in the animal kingdom only exists for procreation, and we can make it a spiritual, meaningful,
I agree,
pleasurable, engaging, stimulating, fun thing to do.
But the natural consequence of sex will remain. You can do all of that.
No, but that's why you have contraception. That's why you can have abortion. This is the beauty of abortion. So I'm not just anti-abortion. I'm pro-abortion. I think that if you're a woman and you're pregnant and you do not want to have a child, your moral obligation is to have an abortion, because the worst thing in the world is to bring a child into the world who is not wanted. So have that abortion and live your life. And plus, you're going to have to live 9 months. I mean, I've got 2 kids, so I know what pregnancy is like. 9 months, which are hard. It's not easy for a woman to go through pregnancy, particularly when you don't want it. So I think the right thing to do, the rational thing to do, the moral thing to do is to get an abortion and to get it very, very early. This is why abortion pills are great, and getting an abortion in the first 3 months is ideal, because very little medical impact on you. It's still just a clump of cells,
I mean,
and you get to live your life the way you want to live your life.
we are a clump of cells. It's just much more cells. Than,
Yeah, but we're not. A clump of cells is not human. My skin
human,
cells.
yeah.
My skin cells are human. They have all my DNA.
yeah,
But I
just
do
like the
this, and they
fetus.
die,
Just like the fetus.
and they die.
They are human as well.
Yeah,
right?
but that's why we don't get upset when
Yeah.
my skin cells die. We don't get upset
Of
when a
course not,
fetus
because
when a fetus
when you
dies.
brush your skin, it will never become a
but-
full rational human being with a
But
full
the point is, you
identity.
cannot conflate a potential with a actual.
Exactly.
So
It's-
the fetus's potential, it's not actual until it's actual,
Yeah.
and one day it will become actual. And the separating point is pretty clear cut.
because I would say I would say probably if you ask an adult human being, what do you think would be worst? You not being desired in the world by your mother, or you dying? They would pretty much say.
Well,
I mean,
but-
it would be bad if.
But
my
you're
mother
not yet
wouldn't
conscious
desire
of
me.
your own death, so it's meaningless, right? So you never existing is the point.
But you
and-
could say
and a
that
lot of
about
human-
a
a lot of
say
human-
that about a 4 months old.
Yeah, but no, you can't, because he's already experienced reality and he's already functioning by himself, and it's a
Not by
completely.
himself. He's not autonomous.
No,
at
but
all.
he's walking. He's crawling. He's sticking. He's moving his. He's moving
Yeah,
his.
fetus is
butt.
moving inside of the belly as well.
No, he's just moving with
lots.
the fluid. He's moving the fluid. He's
Yeah,
not
it's-
self-initiating action.
It is
There's a
self-initiating
huge.
action.
There's a huge
Yeah,
difference.
So if a baby moves in the womb, it's not the mother that moves it; he moves by himself.
No, it's floating in the liquid and it moves
No,
around.
come on, it kicks. You know that.
Yep.
You know
Yep.
that. Come on,
Yeah,
right?
but it's not kicking because it wants to kick. It just kicks. It's not self-directed.
But
The
just like
action is not
the 2 months
self-directed.
old. It's the same. I
No.
have a 2 months old at home.
Yes,
It doesn't decide anything. It just acts.
but some things it decides. Absolutely. Some things it wants and it desires and it goes. It sucks, right? It knows how to suck.
Because I have an issue with, because I think ultimately is another version of the consciousness argument. It's like, oh, it doesn't have this particular ability that I think is necessary for you to give him rights. The conscious people, they say, oh, they need consciousness. They need to feel pain and feel consciousness. And that's around an arbitrary number that sometimes put at 20 weeks or whatever. Some people say 8 weeks. Some people, it varies widely.
Yeah, I think I think it's somewhat arbitrary. I mean, I somewhat understand people who say, if it could survive outside the womb, then you shouldn't abort it. That is, I think, is the most reasonable argument you can make. But I don't accept even that argument, because again, it's not, legally it does not have the rights. And look, I don't think women should abort
But
after a certain point.
why do you mention legal? Legally, it doesn't have the rights. It doesn't really matter because we are talking about morality. So legally,
So again, morality.
legally, I could be
to
I
me-
could be considered a threat to the state and
to
be
me,
killed, right?
To me, the moral is the rational. It is moral to do with your body as you see fit, and it is moral to do with your body what you think is going to make your body better. The fetus is part of the mother's body. To deny her the ability to determine what happens to her body is to deny her freedom. It's to deny her agency.
I agree.
And it's immoral. It's immoral to tell a woman you can't make a change in your body that has massive implications for the rest of your life. Having children, as you know, because you have them, is a massive responsibility.
Oh yeah,
It's huge.
I
So
think they are
and to deny sex because of that, which I think ultimately is a lot of the motivation behind some people, at least, anti-abortion stance is horrific. Sex is a affirmation of life. It's a beautiful thing. It's an
It is.
amazing thing. People should be encouraged to have
Yeah.
sex, not discouraged, and then use contraception. Use the methods not to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And if an accident happens, there's an out. You're not doomed then to having a child for 18 years where you're responsible. Because to me, if you have a child, you're not responsible for it for 18 years in every aspect. It's not a small responsibility. This is a major responsibility.
Yeah.
So be very, very, very sure that you want it. And I want to give you as many opportunities to get out of that decision as possible, so that when you take on the responsibility, you know exactly what's happening.
Isn't that, because I understand obviously the concept. It is a challenge of different moral systems in terms of bodily autonomy, and you are telling the woman what to do with her body. I mean, I would say it's not her body, it's within her body, but it's fine. It's a fine argument. It's valid. And the right to life and all of that. I understand that complication, but wouldn't you say that's fleeing away from consequence? I mean, obviously, I want to have sex for pleasure only sometimes, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's completely fine. It's reasonable. I think that's
I mean,
a great evolution.
All the
of
sex I have
technology.
today, is for pleasure.
Exactly.
Right?
You're not planning
I'm not
on
having
kids.
Yeah.
But if it happens, because it is a natural consequence of sex, it is an expected consequence of sex. Why should you not deal with the consequences?
You are dealing with the
when
consequences.
the payment is a life, is
know,
a potential life.
If one of the ways in which we deal with the consequence is to go through a small medical procedure and get rid of it. It's very easy and very simple. You can take a pill and it just flushes out. So science is made,
right?
but everything is about dealing with the consequences. That is, again, if you don't view the fetus as fully manifest human life, then the best way to deal with the consequences is to get rid of it.
So, for example, imagine on the we do have questions. Okay, good. When does human life begin, objectively speaking?
Well, when it's separated from the mother, when it's an actual independent being, i.e. at birth.
But that's when you recognize rights, right? Human life begins at conception, right? It's
No,
human and
absolutely
it's
not.
alive.
Absolutely not. My skin cell has all the DNA that cell has in the beginning, and I don't consider it human life. So it's a couple of cells, splitting, and it's multiplying, but it's not yet human. It's not yet developed into a human being, and it's not individuated. So no, human life begins when it's born.
Let me ask you something.
It's life. It's just not human yet.
Imagine I'm doing an abortion.
It's a potential human life.
Imagine I'm doing an abortion at 7 months, whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, because for you, morally, it would be no problem because it's not a human yet.
I didn't say it would be no problem. I said it would be.
Why would be a problem then?
Again, it depends on why the woman is doing it. Because it's 7 months. It's a complicated medical procedure.
She just found out.
It's 7 months.
Yeah, it can happen.
Yeah, so it can be moral.
Right?
I'm not saying it's
So
always
in that case,
immoral.
would be moral.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you would have a problem if I would do a procedure on a 7-month
Yep.
pregnant woman
Yep.
that would abort the child, but
Yep.
I would do it slightly different. I would cause the most pain as possible to the fetus.
Yeah.
Would you have a problem with that?
Yeah, because you're being a sadist and you're not a good human being.
But it doesn't matter. It's like causing the most pain as possible to this phone.
Yeah,
so
but
you wouldn't have a problem with me smashing my phone.
So do you have a problem? Do you think I would have a problem with you causing the most pain possible to your dog?
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah, I think it's immoral to cause a
Awesome.
lot of pain to your dog. So purposefully, right? To go through a process of making pain for your dog for no reason. I value. So,
But you value.
Yeah, but I have no problem with you killing your dog. I don't think you should go to jail for killing your dog. I don't think it's always immoral to kill your dog. If your dog has cancer and you kill it, that's okay.
But
right?
no one is talking about going to jail. It's talking, you feel it is immoral if I would beat the shit out of my dog,
Absolutely.
right? I think that's a pretty nasty thing to do.
Absolutely.
Even though you don't recognize he's a human.
So the fetus, you need to kill it quickly so it doesn't feel pain. That's right.
Exactly.
So this is what happens in an
But if
abortion.
it's just a clump of
in
cells.
an abortion, they do everything to zero.
Yeah.
It's obviously not a clump of cells at 7 months, right? It's a live being. It's just not human.
Exactly. But I mean, if it doesn't have the right to life, it certainly doesn't have the right to comfort. Why should we protect it from suffering?
I'm not saying anybody should protect it. There's no legal issue here.
Yeah, but
Again, this
morally,
is
you have an
protection.
issue with it.
Yes, morally, I have an issue with inflicting pain on purpose, right? We're talking about on purpose here. Now, we're not talking about it's the only way to do the abortion. We're talking about on purpose, I'm inflicting pain. I have a problem with anybody who inflicts pain on purpose to another living being, whether they're human or not.
Now
And this
it's
is not human.
But you just
But
said
every
it's
cell
living.
in my body is living. That doesn't make it human.
No, but it
So
is-
I
if it's not
agree that
human,
it's
what
living.
what
It's
is
not
it
human.
then? What is it? Then?
It's a fetus. It's a potential human. It's on the way to becoming human.
Yeah, just like a child, it's on the way to becoming an adult.
No, a child is already human and it's already separate and already has its own mind and it's already conscious and it's already doing a lot of things that makes it a human being.
I super appreciate you entertaining this
Sure.
go back and forward.
Sure.
I won't put too much on that. I think it become a bit clear. I disagree. It's fine. You obviously disagree with me. I don't think it's super consistent. I think it lacks consistency on the fact that then why should I care about inflicting pain on something that I don't even attribute value at all? However, I super appreciate you.
Well, but I
giving
don't
me
think
this
I don't
sense.
think I don't think it's right to not attribute value to it at all. It's a potential human being. There's value there. Every potential has a value. The question is, how high is that value, and how important? If you weigh the value of a fetus, and again, most of them before 21 weeks, of a three-month-old fetus versus the value of a woman who's going to give up 18 years of her life to take care of it, to me, it's clear cut who you side with.
Thank you for that, for clarifying that. It's really
Sure.
good. Can I test the pursuit of happiness value?
Sure.
So
Sure.
imagine I'm a father.
Yeah.
I am actually, and
Yeah.
I do have 2 children.
Yeah.
So imagine I decided to have an amazing family, amazing wife, 2 kids, but then I say, you know what? My pursuit of happiness requires me to abandon my family. My ultimate objective is to go to somewhere else, create, I don't know, let's do something virtuous, like a company, solve a lot of issues to people. I could even create an organization that
Sure.
creates easiest way for you. Imagine the most virtuous stuff, but I would completely abandon my family. Would you say that's completely fine with objectivism?
No. And
Why
and,
not?
and the reason is that when you have a child, and this is related to our previous conversation, when you have a child, you're in a sense signing a contract. So you could take business, right? Let's say you sign a contract where you're going to somebody's going to invest in your business, and you just for 10 years, these are the terms, and this is all. And let's say a year into it, you go, yeah, I don't feel like doing this. I'm going to go on an island.
It's my self-interest.
No, that's
You being egoist.
you are violating something much more important, which is your integrity. You're violating you've made commitments. So being an egoist means having integrity. Being an egoist means being honest. That's what rationality means. You cannot be rational and not be honest. You cannot be a rational being and have no integrity. You cannot be a rational being and not be productive. You can't be a rational being and live off of other people, assuming you're an adult, right?
Yeah.
So once you have a child, you basically signed an 18-year contract to take care of that child. Now, after 18 years, you have no obligation to it, in my view, or 16 or 17, somewhere along the line, you stop having obligations to your children. Yeah. And indeed, your children have no obligations to you. Those obligations, anything beyond 18, are obligations that hopefully are created by the fact that you've got a relationship and you hopefully love each other. But, not all parents love their kids and not all kids love their parents. And yet they made a commitment. So 18 years, they're stuck with it. This is why I'm so pro-abortion, because don't get into that commitment unless you're 100% sure you want to do it, because otherwise you'll screw up your life and you'll screw up your kids' life, which is what happens to a lot of people. So,
but wouldn't you say, because you said in the beginning, and this is something that objectivists say, and I'm super thankful for you to entertaining these type of scenarios.
Sure, no, happy.
Me too. Wouldn't you say, because you said we are anti-sacrifice, you should not be sacrificing to anybody other than yourself.
Yeah, but sometimes
in this case you are.
Yeah, but no,
a lot.
Yeah, but sometimes you make mistakes in life, right? So sometimes you make a mistake, and you have children when you don't really want children, and you've got to suffer the consequences of your mistake. Just like
my abortion point for me now. I'm just joking.
Again, having an abortion, ask any woman who's had an abortion, is not costless.
No, it isn't. Because the life is
no, because the woman has to go through a medical procedure that's pretty unpleasant, and so she is suffering some consequences, and the later she waits, the consequences are bigger.
I was just joking.
But,
we can proceed with the same.
But the point is that it's not so sometimes in life you invest in a stock and it goes down. You didn't intend it to go down, but it goes down, you lose. Those are the consequences of making bad decisions, or in this case, it might not have been a bad decision. Things outside of your control. Sometimes you marry the wrong person, and you have to figure out how to
make that
separate. No, because if you married the wrong person, that is a contract that's reversible. Having kids is not a reversible contract.
It isn't, yeah.
So that's the difference. Some contracts are reversible, some are not. When you make an obligation to the bank you take out a loan and you have to pay 10 payments of whatever, that's not reversible. You have to make the payments. So even though you now regret taking out the loan, the business didn't work out, you have to continue. And that's an issue of integrity. And you're not going to be happy unless you stick to your commitment. That is, your happiness depends on your integrity.
I can tell you I'm much happier if I abandon my family. But I can tell you that.
No, that's just not true.
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
I
do not believe you.
I agree with you. I think it wouldn't be the case, but I would.
But
I would bet
you
a lot
see,
of people would make that case.
yes, but you see, almost all of those cases are based on emotion, and objectivism rejects arguments from emotion. Yeah. Look, objectivism holds that I said be rational is the primary value, but it has virtues that every human being has to abide by if they want to be happy. You're not going to be happy. One of the virtues that might be controversial is unless you have pride. Pride is one of the virtues that are required in order to be happy. And pride means that you take your life seriously. Pride is a commitment to moral excellence. Pride is a commitment to live the best life based on the moral principles that you can lead. And if you don't have that, I don't think you can achieve happiness.
I completely agree with what you said. What I was trying to get at is on that sense on when you say we should not sacrifice for others. I think this is clearly an example of you should be selfless in the way that you take care of your children. You sacrifice.
Should never
for them.
be selfless. God, you are not selfless with your kids.
Because
you're not selfless with your kids. So you
sacrifice for them.
You do not sacrifice for them.
A lot.
I never sacrifice for my kids. So if I stay, so give me an example of a sacrifice you make for your kids.
Time. I don't think that
Okay.
Other
So you could go to the movies.
But even in my business or even in my work, I know that I would achieve more. I would have my pride on myself. I sacrifice for them.
Yes, you do less at work because. So what's more valuable to you, your children or your work?
Definitely my children.
Well, then how is it a sacrifice? You're trading a lower value, your work, for a higher value, your children. So a sacrifice is when you give up a high value and get nothing in return, or give up a high value and get something of lower value in return, or give up a high value and get something in return in another life, which I don't think exists, right? So if right here on earth, you are giving up something of low value and getting something of high value, that's a trade. I do that every single day. So I don't sacrifice my kids. When I don't go to the movies and stay with them, it's because they're more important than the movie. If they're sick and I don't go to work because I stay with them, it's because they're more important than me going to work that day. So I always have a hierarchy of values, and I strive to always, we can't do everything in life. You can't do every single thing that you want. Yeah. So you always have trade-offs. You want the trade-off to be higher.
I agree.
Instead of lower. So that's not a sacrifice.
I agree with you in everything that you said.
So you're not sacrificing.
However, in the example that I gave you, I would be sacrificing because I don't put my kids up in that hierarchy of values and I want to live, and you're telling me that's immoral. You should stay. You should sacrifice.
I'm saying that your integrity, your moral virtues are right at the top of your moral hierarchy, of your hierarchy of values. Otherwise, you cannot achieve happiness.
I agree.
So the standard of morality is your moral code. So once you've made that commitment, having a children, I'm going to take care of them for 18 years and just abandon them. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't get a divorce and take care of them in another way, but you have to you've made a commitment to your kids, and to some extent, you made a commitment to the wife. This is why there's alimony and all these other things. So you financially might support her, but you have to live up to your commitments. That's called integrity, and that's a significant portion of that. Is at the top of the hierarchy. Yeah. Moral values always at the top of the hierarchy.
You're a good sport. Thanks a lot. Sure. Because I'm trying to also connect with the public in Portugal.
Oh, sure.
Because they think that, no, sacrifice is a good thing.
But see, sacrifice is losing.
But in that sense, I think there is a crack in the wall, I would say. Because if I don't value my family, even if I've done the previous commitment, I can change my mind, right? You're not opposed to changing my mind in terms of my
again,
preferences,
this is
right?
why starting a family is such a big deal,
it
and
is
this
a
is
big
and
deal.
it's a big deal.
Yeah,
It's
I agree
not,
with you.
and I think I'm not worried about people not having a lot of kids, because I think a lot of people do a lousy job with their kids and shouldn't have kids. So it's a big deal having a family. It's a huge responsibility. Make sure you're ready for it. Make sure you're with the right partner for it. I don't believe you should have children a year after you get married. Get married, live with a woman for 5, 6, 7 years. Make sure you're compatible. Make sure you work together, and then have kids. Right?
Yeah.
I know people who have a bad marriage, and to solve the conflict in the marriage, they have kids.
Yeah, that's true.
It drives me
Worst
crazy.
idea
The
ever.
worst idea ever, because the kids will just make that all the challenges even worse.
Definitely.
But so yeah, I take it very seriously. Your commitments in life are very serious. If you say you're going to do a job, do the job. If and here you said, I'm going to do the job of taking care of these kids, then do it. And so yes, sometimes you have to make long-term investments, and you have to live up to those commitments.
Yeah, I agree with that. Can we move on to a simple question? So Ayn Rand said that she liked Aristotle, right?
Yeah.
What she liked about Aristotle?
I mean, she liked a lot about Aristotle. I mean, she liked his emphasis on reality. A is A, kind of the whole idea of reality is what it is, and the identification of that. She liked
Human ethics. I think that she would like.
Yeah, I mean, she basically liked the ethics. The standard of the ethics is individual human flourishing. She would disagree with the particular virtues. She had different virtues, and she comes at them very differently than Aristotle does. But she likes. I mean, he's the only other philosopher, thinker who had an egoistic moral system.
Yep.
His system is based on your own flourishing, and here are the ways to get it. They disagree on the ways, but they agree on the human flourishing as the standard. Eudaimonia, happiness, is what you strive towards. She liked the fact that he was the father of logic, right, and really the father of science. He was a scientist himself. Now, he wasn't a very good one in the sense that a lot of his scientific conclusions, turned out to be wrong, but his methodology was right. So the only way to correct Aristotle is to use Aristotle's method to correct it. Look, he was the greatest philosopher in all of human history.
I think so.
Almost all of the modern world that exists today is due to Aristotle. And so, yeah, I mean, she was he's the only philosopher she really admired, because of his ideas. I mean, there were flaws in them, but again, he lived 2,500 years ago, so you'd expect that.
Would she disagree with him also on, because he had the mover argument for the existence of a deity, right?
Yes.
Existence of a God.
Yeah.
Would Ayn Rand also disagree, and objectivists also disagree with Aristotle on that? If to move something, there needs to initiate movement, and there needs to be someone that initially moves something. And if the universe is moving, you know how it goes, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you know who initiated the initiator. So
see, this was my slick way of introducing religion, right?
Yes. So who
what do you think about it?
Who initiated the initiator? I don't think it's a particularly good argument, but again, it's 2,500 years ago. I think Ayn Rand, argued that religion was a primitive form of philosophy. I think Aristotle is pretty advanced philosophy, and that's why God plays such a small role in his universe. It just starts and then he walks away, right? He's not a present God. I don't think it stands up. His argument stands up to logic and reality. But I'd rather take his argument for the existence of God as something that moved it and went away than conventional religion's argument for an ever-present God who intervenes in human affairs and who listens to our prayers.
You think it is at least, or it has been, utilitarianly speaking, like if you think purely as an utilitarian, you think at least that has been, would you recognize the utility of it to create those moral codes that you say are essential for humans to flourish with freedom within each other?
No, I think it's exactly the opposite. I think it's, I mean, in almost every realm, I think religion has been a net negative for humanity, particularly, I'd say, over the last
a net negative
2,000 years. Yes. I mean, what it did is retard the ability to come up with rational, objective moral codes. because
even if you're so let's focus on the European experience, because otherwise I'm not as
yeah,
knowledgeable.
just Europe.
But
We'll
for example,
talk just about Europe.
most of the philosophers of like the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages they were all like priests, like
Yeah, and they were terrible philosophers. They were really,
Aquinas,
really bad, with the
Augustine.
exception of Aquinas.
Aquinas was really good.
Yeah,
right?
but well, not really good. He was good, but we'll get to why he was good. He was good in comparison to everybody else. He was really good.
Yeah.
But in terms of objectively, he was only good. And in comparison to Aristotle, I mean,
Yeah, but
so the point is this: imagine a world, and I know it's hard, but imagine a world where Christianity never arises,
Yeah.
and who takes Aristotle seriously, just Aristotle, right? Takes Aristotelian philosophy and now says, okay, let's work on this problem that he gave us: how to construct the best moral system, given eudaimonia, given the need for human flourishing. I think we would be 1,000 years more advanced today than we are. Right? I mean, that is an amazing world. You wouldn't have socialists, you wouldn't have communists, you wouldn't have fascists, because you'd have built a moral system from the beginning on a foundations of reason, on a foundation of science, and a foundation on the best philosopher ever was laying, which is a foundation of self-interest. Instead, and I don't want to, I'm going to say harsh things about Christianity. I don't want to offend.
that's okay.
Right?
Don't worry.
So instead you get Jesus. Instead you get a philosophy that says that your idol, your hero, is somebody who died a most horrific death, a really painful death. Really talk about pain,
Yeah.
right? A horrific death, not for his sins, that I could understand, right? But for everybody else's sins, and in an act of ultimate sacrifice. That is horrific. That's the moral ideal. So the moral ideal now is for me to sacrifice to other people. The moral ideal, and every saint that we have in the list of saints, all give up their lives for the sake of, other people.
A higher idea.
But not a higher idea that's connected to this world, a higher idea that's connected to another world that none of us have any evidence exists. All of it is about the other world. So if you think about Aristotle believes he doesn't believe in sacrificing for another world. He doesn't believe in sacrificing for God. His God just set the world in motion and it's gone. He doesn't believe in sacrificing for other people. He believes in certain virtues that will get you. I disagree with some of those virtues, but that's an interesting conversation. We could have a conversation once we agree that you need virtues in order to achieve individual happiness and that this world is our standard. We can now have a discussion about which virtues make sense and which virtues don't. Instead, we have had 2,000 years of discussing how to sacrifice, who to sacrifice to, when it's not good to sacrifice. And then what Thomas Aquinas does, because for 1,000 years, up until Thomas Aquinas, Christianity was almost exclusively, and all the philosophers and all the monks, and exclusively focused on the other world. This world sucked. It was horrible. It was terrible. You just need to somehow survive it, and you get to the other world. And
it did. It really sucked at the time.
It did, and it did to a large extent because of Christianity. Yeah. I mean, Christianity was the cause of the sucking.
It was more advanced than other cultures. You
no.
could argue, for example, the church founded most of the universities that created.
No, I mean, I'm reading a lot of history right now, so. And I'm writing a book, by the way.
But didn't church created most of the universities during the
but
Middle Ages?
Late in the Middle Ages.
I mean, there were no universities prior.
But the universities in the beginning, when they started, they were universities, by the way. We're talking about Europe.
The scale, right? I mean, it's...
Oh, no, the scale was much larger. Baghdad was much larger than anything was done in the West. In Bukhara, in Central Asia, in India, in China, there were universities on a scale much bigger than anything that existed in the West. They were richer, they were more prosperous, they were more advanced scientifically in every respect than the West. The West, from the period of the rise of Christianity until Thomas Aquinas, and really until the Renaissance, still 1400, was a primitive society on a global scale. It was way behind the Arabs, the Muslims. It was way behind the Indians, and it was way behind the Chinese. I mean, orders of magnitude behind, right? It's only when Thomas Aquinas does something miraculous. Instead of the focus on the other world, which I think sustained Europe into poverty and misery for 1,000 years. By the way, in those 1,000 years, in Christendom, not a single astronomical observation was made, right? Not for most of the Greeks and the Romans, people were making astronomical observations all the time. And this is just an indication of almost no science, almost nothing. All the scientific achievements are happening in the Arab world and the Indian world and the Chinese world. So then Aquinas says, I've read Aristotle, and Aristotle puts a huge emphasis on this world, on reality, on happiness. Maybe we need to integrate them. So he brings Aristotle in and then you start seeing progress. Then you get universities. Then, universities started a little before, but also from the discovery of Aristotle, the University of Paris, they're getting the books. Where they're getting Aristotle from? From the Arab libraries in Cordoba and Toledo that the Christians are conquering. And they're taking those books and they're translating. They read Aristotle, not in Greek, because they don't know Greek. They read him they translate the Arab translations of the original Greek into Latin, and that's how they read Aristotle. So it's the Arabs who save civilization, as horrible as that, as unimaginable as that is, given the Arab world today. But it is interesting because what happens in the Arab world is they have this amazing enlightenment, in a sense, a Renaissance enlightenment from 800 to 1200. And it dies. It dies for two reasons. One, Mongol invasions kill a lot of them. But the second is they start taking Islam seriously. And the more you take religion seriously, the less progress, science, success there is. The more, and that happened in the Christian world. That happened in the Islamic world. It happens in India with Buddhism. Everywhere you go, when religion is primary, then science and progress and human happiness and flourishing and all of that goes down. When religion subsides and you allow for these ideas to come up, then and of course, the wealth that we have today is a product of the Enlightenment. It's a product of a secular society. It's not a product of religion. It's a negation of religion. And again, just having moral values doesn't guarantee freedom, happiness. You need the right moral values. And I think Christianity has the wrong moral values because it emphasizes another world, and it emphasizes rule-based and authority-based system, which also opens up human consciousness to authority.
Yeah.
Which is
can I object to that? Giving some examples. So, for example, you mentioned socialism and communism.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows that was an atheist movement. Everybody knows that. I mean,
but it's just not true. So even
Marx called religion the opium of the people.
Yeah. So even what's his name? Oh God, this book called Dominion, which is a big book, right? Very successful book. Even in Dominion, he knows and he realizes that all Marx does and all the socialists do is secularize Christianity. That is the fundamental thing that they do. They take the moral code of Christianity and they secularize it. And indeed, if you look at the first communes, the first socialist settlements in human history, they're all Christian. And then the church suppresses them because it doesn't want its authority questioned, and it doesn't like this stuff. But it's all based on Sermon on the Mount. It's all based on the ideas in the New Testament, at least their interpretation of it. You might have a different interpretation, and that's fine. It's one of the beauties of religious books. You can find whatever the hell you want in them. You bring your own philosophy to it, and you take from it what you want. But no, socialism and communism have all the trappings of religion. They have all the trappings of a particular religion, Christianity. It's a very Christian, secularized Christian philosophy, and it's basically based on the idea of sacrifice. It's based on the idea of morality, that the individual doesn't matter. There's some higher being that you should sacrifice to. And here they replace God with the proletariat, and you should sacrifice to the proletariat. They replace the Pope with a dictator, because you need somebody to commune with the Spirit. You need somebody to get revealed truth. And it's the exact opposite.
Natural. But I think that's natural.
Yeah, but it's exact opposite.
People will inevitably create hierarchies of values. Yeah. And they will substitute God with other things.
Yes, but the whole point is not to substitute God. The whole point is to go by reason, to go by rationality. And rationality is not a God. Reason is not a God. Reason is a methodology. And the beauty of the Enlightenment is that it doesn't, what it does is it introduces reason. And what Marx does, in spite of calling himself scientific, is he rejects reason. He rejects evidence.
That's for sure.
The communists reject reason. Fascism rejects reason. So all of these are the rejection of reason. So I view anti-reason ideologies, religion, communism, socialism, Marxism. They have much more in common. What's new is the Enlightenment and Objectivism. Objectivism, I view as a continuation of the spirit of the Enlightenment, of the ideas of the Enlightenment, is pro-reason.
Yeah.
So anti-reason, pro-reason. That's the way you should divide ideas up.
I mean, you're probably very aware of the French Revolution.
Yeah, but the French Revolution was motivated primarily. Again, history matters. The French Revolution is primarily motivated by the one thinker in France who was anti-Enlightenment, and that is Rousseau. Rousseau writes his first major essay is an essay that says,
but they use the same arguments. They even substitute.
No, Rousseau is pro-religion.
Temples of reason.
Yes,
you know that, right?
Yes,
and you know the consequences of the French
Revolution. Of course, but they're inspired. They're inspired not by the Enlightenment that actually advocated for reason. They're inspired by Rousseau, who's a bad guy. But he's the one who dominated. Why? Because he was the closest to Christianity. He was the closest to religion. So when people rebel,
they rejected Christianity. They even burned
nuns and priests. But that's the beauty of it, right? The beauty of it is that if you create a secular philosophy that's very similar to Christianity, you can be anti-Christian and pretend that you're free of Christianity, but you're not, because it's so similar. The difference is the Founding Fathers. The Founding Fathers created a new system, not based on Christianity, not connected, not based on Christianity. There's no individual rights
given by God, right? I mean, it's there on the.
It's
on the Bill of Rights
by their creator.
Exactly. So
yeah, but what kind of creator is it? It's nature. It
was a Christian. They were all English.
They were not Christian. They were deists. Most of them were deists. Certain Jefferson was a deist. They were very unconventional Christians. They viewed Christianity as they rejected all the miracles, right? There's a Jeffersonian Bible where he cuts out of the New Testament all the miracles.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's something called the Jeffersonian Bible. You can look it up. It's really interesting. No, they are men of the Enlightenment. If you look at their libraries are dominated by Enlightenment writings. They're men of science. They're Renaissance men. Yeah, religion plays a role. They hadn't completely rejected it yet, but it's a small role relative. The whole system of government that they create is something that's created. It comes out of the writings of Locke, and it comes out of the writings of Montesquieu and out of others. It's not something that they're just taking from the Old Testament or the New Testament. It's something that they create anew. Whereas the French Revolution is very much in its values aligned with Christianity. That's why, and that's why it's so easy to accept. That's why the masses just embrace it so quickly. But you have to separate the Enlightenment from Rousseau. Is the first anti-Enlightenment philosopher, and he is the most influential philosopher during the French Revolution, which is the tragedy. The French Revolution could have been a good thing if it had just gotten rid of the king and hadn't had all the bloodshed.
All but good, yeah.
It could have mimicked the American Revolution, and they chose not to mimic the American Revolution. And in that sense, to be an anti-Enlightenment phenomenon instead of a pro-Enlightenment phenomenon.
Yeah, awesome. And we will move to that. Let me just do a final point on that. What about if you look at today? So the secular world of today, wouldn't you say that's more hedonistic? People
I hate the secular world of today.
Exactly.
But I also hate the religious world of today. So it's a false dichotomy, right? To take the.
But it's a world without religion, and look at what it brought to.
Yeah, but it's a world without religion, and yet here we sit streaming all over the world at a marginal cost of zero. This podcast, it's an amazing world that we have because it's a non-religious world. So yes, I mean, a lot of people lack values because they haven't been introduced to proper philosophy. And what we need is to replace religion, not with nothing, not with a void. I'm not arguing that we should all become hedonists or nihilists, which I think a lot of people become, but replace religion with philosophy. And if we replace religion with philosophy, then the world would, as good as it is, and I think it's pretty wonderful as it is, in spite of all our negativity, it's pretty amazing that we're sitting here and doing what we're doing. Definitely. And I flew here and everything.
Definitely.
It could be so much better, and people would be so much happier. But for that, they don't need the crutch of religion. What they need is a new philosophy.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for clarifying that. Let's go to some of the questions. Rodrigo, shoot. Okay. But are you favoriting them? So Mario Gomes says that religion has delayed science for decades, maybe centuries.
Yep.
Those are facts, he said. So he's with you. And Manuel Morgado says that he can say what he wants, but the West wouldn't be what it is today without Christianity.
Yeah, we wouldn't have socialism. We wouldn't have communism. We wouldn't have all the bad elements.
But I think that's a bad example, right? Because socialism, it's like an atheist movement.
But it couldn't
It's
be.
like
but
it's not a good example.
First
I
of all,
think.
it's not true because, as I said, the first socialist communities were Christian communities in the 10th century.
The first
And-
universities, like in Europe, were Catholic.
But again, they were
the biggest philosophers.
but you don't need. The universities came about in spite of Catholicism, not because of Catholicism. They weren't made possible by Catholicism. They somehow achieved their success in spite of being in a Catholic world.
I understand what you're saying, but they were actually directly funded through the church. It's not like they against the church emerged. The church funded them.
I get that. The church often acted against, certain of its interests. It then changed its mind. So the church funded all the great art in the Renaissance, and then Luther got pissed off at that, and among many other things, and started. So there was a counter Reformation, and they went to the Sistine Chapel, and in Michelangelo's what do you call it? When the dead all rise. And Jesus decide who goes to heaven and hell. What do you call that?
I don't know what he called that. When Jesus quando Jesus volta e decide quem é que...
Anyway, there's the huge
Yeah?
painting in the Sistine Chapel.
There is, yeah.
Yes, and the Pope tells them to cover up all the penises.
Yeah.
Yep, because the Counter Reformations, they go back and forth, right? They go back and forth during time. But look, the reason universities were founded, the reason that the church did that is not because of Christianity. It was because they were discovering all these secular writings in these libraries they were discovering in Spain of Aristotle, of the first doctors from Greece, the astronomers from Greece, the scientists from Greece, and they needed to integrate this material, and they created universities for that. So it's the discovery of a secular world.
Yeah.
And when we look at a secular world, you can look at Greece, you can look at Rome as examples rather than looking at socialism or communism. Those were just a secular, and indeed Greece, you could argue more.
They have their gods, right? I mean,
Yeah, but gods that are
gods.
running around among us and having sex is not exactly.
It's not the
not
same,
exactly religion.
For sure.
Yeah.
But let me just push back a little bit, because I've been reading Locke, and even some of the founders in the US, and they were always pretty adamant in terms of their inspiration on Christianity to found their society. And even Locke himself, he has texts saying, what I've written is not for the beast-like atheists. He actually said that.
I know,
So,
I know,
you know that.
I know, but yes, I know that. But look, he lived in the early, in the 17th century, in the late part of the 17th century. You could not be religious at that point. Everybody was
But
Christian.
he made the point of
Everybody.
saying that.
No, he doesn't believe atheists have rights, and he doesn't believe Catholics have rights, by the way. So he says really nasty things about Catholics,
That's true.
and he has to escape London and go to Amsterdam
I know that.
because the Catholic king is coming. So look, I mean, Locke is not God, right? and he's flawed. And
But I say that because a lot of people, like for example,
but his logic is not derived from theology. His logic
But he
is
says it
derived
is.
from reality.
but he himself said it was.
I know, but it wasn't.
And there was I was about to say something. Oh, there is a book called Inventing the Individual. That's why I say this. And I'm saying this for a point, which is The Invention of the Individual. That book argues actually, and it goes through the history of the church and the history of Christianity. And it argues that actually the liberal, objectivist, libertarian, all those combination of values that combine with each other to create the individual, and that sense, the egotistic individual that should pursue its happiness, actually derives from Christian beliefs.
That
and
is
values.
a big reach because when Christianity dominates, there are no egoists and there are no people pursuing their values. What you get is a dark ages. When Christianity wins, what you get is collectivism. You don't get individualism. And the creation of the individual, you already have those ideas in Greece before, among Greek philosophers before the invention of Christianity. So no, I don't buy any of those arguments. It's like ex post people looking back and try to rationalize. If you actually look at the history, It's very clear. Western civilization becomes civilized when it introduces Greek ideas. And the more committed it is to religion, the less civilized it is. The more committed it is to Greece, the more civilized it is. So there's a direct relationship. So I've got a book coming out. You might be interested
Please
in
promote it, of course. I
Yes.
will read it.
I mean,
I promise.
I'm hoping it'll come out next year because we're still writing it. But it's basically Christianity versus the West. So my argument is Christianity has hampered the West, not helped it. That it's held it back, and we'll compare with some of the other civilizations. This is why I'm doing a lot of reading on this with the other civilizations at the same time. But it's pretty amazing what was going on, for example, in Central Asia in the 9th and 10th century when there was nothing going on in the West.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for taking
such
a good sport.
And I just want to say this: the reason it was going on in Central Asia is because they were translating the Greeks. So they had Aristotle's writings, they had Plato, they had all the science, and they developed that. So even though they were nominally Muslim, Islam was in the background, and they focused in on philosophy and science. Just like post Aquinas, we kind of put religion, Christianity a little bit to the side, and we focus on Aristotle and the sciences and all this stuff. So every civilization that's exposed to Greek ideas does well.
All right. Thanks a lot for explaining. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear your view, and that's what matters the most.
Yes.
Do you have more comments,
appreciate it.
Rodrigo, that I could finish off with?
There's a lot of religious opposition on. I could tell that.
No, but it's because I knew that like abortion, religion,
Sure,
and all
sure.
of those topics
Sure, no, it's
would
good.
give an interesting conversation for
It's
you
good.
to actually explain your views.
Absolutely.
And I do disagree,
Yeah.
and I think that's obvious, but
Yeah.
it's good. Another question, says Manuel, a Christian society can resist better to invasion of Muslims, for example, which is happening right now to a secular society.
I think that's absolutely not the case. It's a secular society. Again, what secular society? Secular means nothing, right? So what secular society? An
You
objectivist
could say
secular.
that Europe is a very secular, organized society right now, right? I mean,
yeah, but secular without values is not a value to me, right? I'm not defending Europe as it stands today versus some Christian ideal. I
but
think a
it does
Christian
have a
ideal.
point, right? I mean, we organized around crusades. I mean, Portugal was born that way.
Yeah, no,
fighting off the Islamic.
No, I know. And the first people, who the first people you killed during the Crusades?
Who
Who were the first? Muslims? No. First people you killed in the Crusade. Read up on the first Crusade with the Jews. So the Crusade starts in northern Germany and northern France and northern Germany. They sweep down in Germany. They kill any Jew they find. They kill whole communities. They slaughter them all way before they reach the Middle East. So it was barbaric. Christianity has been in its history a barbaric religion, and it went to war with the Muslims over something that was irrelevant. What was irrelevance to a peasant in France who ruled Jerusalem? What a stupid war to engage in.
It's not only about that, right? Because most of the Middle East in that part, which is now, I mean, Israel.
It was a Byzantine empire.
It was
that-
Christian, right? So they were defending the invasion of
Yeah, but-
Muslims within Christian territory. There
but
was
again,
never
that's-
an attack on non-prior Christian land. There was never an
Well, there
attack
was
on
all
that.
the time, right? I mean, much of the Crusades were in Scandinavia, which were pagan countries, and there was an attack there to convert them into Christianity. Most of Europe was Christianized by the sword, and through Constantine, post Constantine, the Roman Empire expands Christianity throughout Europe by the sword. So no, I think that the best way to combat Islam is with a secular ideology that's based on reason. And believe me, that my views, if people had listened to me after 9/11 or even before 9/11, then we would not have an Islamic problem right now. So again, I don't sympathize with everybody who says I'm secular. I mean, obviously, communists and socialists are my enemies on 99% of the stuff. Just because they say they're secular doesn't mean anything to me. Doesn't make them my allies. I have a particular philosophy. This is the point. And Christianity doesn't know how to deal with Islam, and the secular world doesn't. So
It does.
The secular, it doesn't. It doesn't know how to deal with Islam. And what it will lead to is religious wars, which is not what we need. What we need is to deal with Islam, and to deal with Islam through reason, and understand Islam as a religion and why it's an enemy of the West, and how to deal with it as an enemy
But
of the
if,
West.
if, for example, maybe I'm creating a false picture, but I don't think I am, which is if Islam looks at the Christian world as infidels and they want to create a world in which they are not here and they
Yeah.
convert to
Yeah.
Islam, they are using the sword. So it's self-defense that you would use the sword back. And that's, I think,
I'm
Manuel's
all
point.
for using swords back. I have no
Yeah,
problem with
I
using
think
swords back.
that's Manuel's point, which is, look, I've looked at history and I've seen Christians coming up together around the same values and combating Islam.
Yes, but what world?
Which I don't think you like,
but,
right?
but what
It's another
world-
religion.
Yes, but what world were
And-
they defending? It
but-
was a Christian world.
Of course.
Yes,
exactly.
and thus primitive, barbaric, violent, and unfree. So you cannot have a Christian world uniting to fight Islam and have freedom. Though Christianity and freedom are not compatible, and particularly not compatible when it's going to go to war. Now, what
Now, what are the nations that are most free? They all have Christian background.
and they're all secular today. They've all been secular
Yeah.
since they became free.
But you don't think there's an underlying contamination effect of
No,
them being
No, every
Christian
single
for like millennium?
No, every single one of the free countries. Japan is not a Christian country, and it's a free country, relatively speaking, right?
Yeah.
South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong,
I mean,
Singapore.
South Korea was influenced by the US to be a free country.
Yeah, all of these countries were influenced by the U.S.
And Japan too. Japan too, by the way.
And the U.S. was influenced by the Enlightenment to be a free country, by the secular Enlightenment to be a free country. And again, Jefferson read a lot. The founders of America read a lot more of the secular Enlightenment than they did of theological debates about how many angels sit on the eye of a needle. So the America is a secular country. And the freedom that America enjoyed is a product of its secular nature, not of its religious nature. And coming together around a false ideology, which I think Christianity is not helpful. So in order to combat Islam, you need to think, and you need to figure out how to defeat them. It's not that hard because they're pretty weak and pretty barbaric and pretty primitive. So it's not hard to defeat Islam.
But they're winning grounds in Europe. I think that's Manuel's point.
Oh, I
right?
agree that they're winning.
What
but that's
would Ayn Rand say about this migration problem in Europe?
I don't know what Ayn Rand would say. I'll tell you what I would say, because
Tell
Ayn
me.
Rand did not have this problem. Islam, the Islamic world has a real problem of fundamentalists, religious fundamentalists, Islamism, Islamic radicals, however you want to call them, Islamic totalitarians, who believe that God has given them the world, and they will dominate the world, and they should rule over the world, and they will use force in order to gain that. The West has to recognize that first. Step one, recognize that fact. Step two, identify that it's a real threat and declare war on it. So after 9/11, George Bush, a good Christian, called Islam a religion of peace and celebrated the Ramadan on October 2001 in the White House. Ramadan, October, a month after 9/11, the Ramadan was celebrated. Now that is unbelievably Christian. Turn the other cheek, love your enemy like you do. And horrifically anti-objectivist and anti-reason and anti-rationality. I said at the time, declare war and crush them. Make a list of every organization and every state that adheres to Islamic fundamentalism. That would be Al-Qaeda, obviously. Al-Qaeda, today, ISIS, Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, the Muslim Brotherhood, which is behind all of this. Iran, not Iraq. Iraq was a secular country. Who cared? I mean, the guy was a monster, but he wasn't spreading terrorism around the world. Who did? Iran. So Iran should have been the target. So if you understand who the enemy is, this Islamist ideology, then you can have a proper list of enemies. And it's not, it's a religious war. We have to push back on Muslims, because some Muslim countries are not your enemy, but some are really your enemy. Iran is an enemy. And destroy them. And then we all over. And we could have destroyed them in a matter of weeks, months.
So what advice would you give for us that are struggling? In Portugal, we are struggling a lot.
Declare war on the Islamist, not Islam, on the Islamist ideology. So make it so that you can kick them out.
Yeah.
And you know, if there are preachers out there preaching Sharia and preaching the destruction of Western civilization, send them packing.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's move on. If Islam was a religion of peace, the Islamic extremists would be extremely peaceful. Yeah, that's for sure. A good point.
Well, there is no such thing as a religion of peace. That is a contradiction in terms. There's never been a religion of peace. Again, Christianity Christianized Europe by the sword, and not against Muslims, against pagans, and against Jews.
Turn the other cheek.
Yeah, I mean, this is the combination of Rome and Christianity, right? And Augustine, who's one of the fathers of the church, Augustine has whole writings about the morality of war.
Yeah.
And in order to justify, when is war justified? War is only justified to convert somebody to Christianity. So war is justified for good defined by Christianity. And this is my point about force. Everybody agrees force is okay if it's for the right cause. Augustine, who defined Christian morality with regard to violence, said violence is okay if it promotes Christianity.
Yeah. Good. Sorry, guys, if I'm taking a while to translate, because you guys write in Portuguese and I have to translate in my head.
And by the way, that noise you're hearing is it's pouring rain.
Hopefully
It's
they don't hear that.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're
pouring
hearing
rain
it or
really a
not.
lot.
We're hearing it.
What other questions? Rodrigo, can you scroll a bit so I can see a little bit more questions?
Do
if
we
there
need to
are?
leave, Miguel?
Yeah, we will finish.
Okay.
We'll finish right away. So let's see if there's any last question, and we'll just finish.
It's the same people.
Is using the correct term, fundamentalist Islam, meaning it's how Islam was founded. That's true. Violence, force, etc. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how the different religions were founded. Islam was founded, and this is what gives them the gall, if you will, to go out and try to dominate the world. They were founded by a warrior trader, you know, and Christianity was founded by, you know, somebody who was crucified.
A peaceful guy, right? He never hurt anybody.
Yeah, peaceful, but I'd say weak and suffering and failed. Right, as an individual, he never saw his success. If you think as a man, if you think
He
he's
was
God, something else,
successful.
right?
What happened?
He was successful
exactly the
well
plan.
after his death. Muhammad was successful in his life, but that tells you something about the attitude of both religions, right? Muhammad was successful during his life. The whole philosophy he was. I mean, he conquered
I understand
lands.
what you mean, but
He conquered lands. I mean, successful in those kind of terms.
but I think Jesus being murdered by the Romans and
it makes a good.
that was the plan. It was not like he was successful on his plan. It was actually the plan.
It's not his plan. I mean, you know, I don't
He
think
knew that was.
I don't
happening,
think it
right?
was a plan. You know,
He
I
could
think
flee away. He had the masses with them
Jesus-
at a certain point.
no. He Christianity doesn't really gain any. It doesn't gain numbers and clout or anything until Constantine, you know, it brings it into the Roman Empire. That's when it really starts taking off, and then it's using the sword to convert people.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
My pleasure.
You're really a good, fun guy to discuss a lot of topics with.
Sounds good.
Okay.
What do you need?
It's in WhatsApp or? Yeah, I will. Yes. Okay. Yes, of course. Okay, guys, there at home, if somebody is interested in hearing more about what we are discussing here, there's going to be extra conferences and events. There was one yesterday. It's already recorded and available on YouTube because I saw it. There's going to be a conference in the 17th and 19th of April. Is that it? In the next year. And there is a group.
Ayn Rand
Ayn Rand Con.
It's called Ayn Rand Con.
That's news for me.
It's a Ayn Rand conference in Porto. We do one a year.
Is that the first?
No, we do one a year in Europe, but this is the first time it's in Porto.
Oh,
first time it's in Portugal.
Okay.
So we'll be bringing a number of speakers from the US, so yeah, people should go check it out online, and hope to see a lot of people from Portugal at the conference.
Awesome. If we can, we will be there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Would be
That'd be great.
pretty good.
Yeah.
There is also a group of objectivists in Portugal, if people want to join. What is the group called? Objectivism Portugal. Where can they find them?
The best thing to do is for them to get in touch with you guys when you.
Okay, get in touch with us. Comment down below, and we will comment where you can find. I guess there are groups, Discord, Instagram, whatever. There are groups that you can join. And
there is an event on Thursday, so the day after tomorrow. Since this is live, there's an event in Lisbon on Thursday with a pretty famous people. Who's Miguel Morgado will be there,
and Carlos Guimarães Pinto.
Yeah. And it's called "In the Morality of Capitalism." That's the title.
That's a good topic. We would not disagree on.
Yeah, so you can. Well, we will disagree on what the morality is, but
yes, maybe not. We don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Is there
my pleasure?
Any extra last message you want to give before we finish?
I mean, people should check out my podcast, Yaron Brook Show. You can find it on YouTube pretty easily. YaronBrookShow.com is the website, and if you're interested in Ayn Rand, go read some Ayn Rand. I think everybody will benefit from it, whether you agree or not agree. Yep. In the end, read Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead, read The Virtue of Selfishness, provocative title, or Capitalism, Not Known Ideal. These are good. And you can check out AynRand.org, AYNRAND.org, for information about her life, about the books, what languages they're available in. It's all available on the website.
Thank you so much, Yaron.
My pleasure.
It was
absolutely.
A super real pleasure.
This was fun.
For
Absolutely.
Truth. And it was really fun. It was fun for me. Hopefully it was fun for you. Guys,
absolutely.
Stick with us. We'll have an extra podcast today at 9 p.m. probably, between 8 and 9.
The hardworking. What about your kids?
Yeah, what about my kids? Exactly. That's what I say about sacrifice. Guys, stick with us. We will have a conversation about homeschooling, about even, I mean, you'll see. João Descalço and Alexandre will be here. You know them already. It's going to be a great conversation tonight. And we will actually try to follow, for example, tomorrow and in the other days, the presidential interviews on RTP. So be sure to follow that as well. If you still don't, follow us on Instagram. You'll be always aware of the next episodes. Thank you so much. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for listening. If you like it, share it with everybody that you know. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Eu não sou tanto a favor da Quarta República, sou muito mais a favor do Quinto Império.
A primeira palavra que ele não queria que eu dissesse era cadela do PT. Estou falando cadela do PT.
Se vocês estão a contar com o Estado para alguma coisa, esqueçam.
Só não se esqueçam que a ignorância é uma deles, a sapiência é nossa.